community, and welcome to another episode of MakersPlace X Whale, where today we are joined by both Perry Cooper and Reed Zimmerman, also known as Lightnightrenders, to talk primarily about the full spectrum bipeds drop that Reed will be doing on MakersPlace. And as you may recall, we've actually had these gentlemen here in the whale community previously when they did the high tea drop, with Perry, and we had the teacups and it was glorious.
Yes.
So now we have the other side of this where we have the characters that perhaps could be also a part of this space. But more than that, it's really exciting to be able to have both Reed and Perry back here and focusing on Reed's drop, because we know that Reed is, a self-taught artist who had gone to school for film and found that he wanted to do more than, just hit that record button. And he has taken some huge leaps in, both the corporate space and also the metaverse to be able to, join the metaverse and create these amazing works of art that we are going to see today. So thank you both for joining today. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. So glad to see you again. I know it's been a couple months, and we had you here before, and we went over your journeys, and kind of your background. So maybe we could do just a very brief, how you got into this space as a recap, and then talk about, kind of what it is that you're doing here with these full spectrum bipeds on MakersPlace. So let's start with Reed. If you want to tell us just a little bit more than the introduction that I gave.
Yeah. So like you said, I was a film student and I learned 3D on the side. The film program didn't have any CGI animation or anything like that. It was just, get behind a camera or write a script type thing. And so I just decided to learn on my own and fell in love with it because I was like, what more could you like to make whatever you want, but be able to sit in a chair and not move around? I think we could all relate with that. So that's just kind of been the journey, and then just, been posting on Instagram for a while and just trying to learn as much as I can. I feel like you could never not know everything about Cinema 4D, which makes it very exciting. And then, over the summer, I ended up coming up with this robotic type look with a bunch of colors and stuff, and really wanted it to provide the best route to turn it into an NFT. So doing the drop with MakersPlace was a good route to go. And we are here today and now looking at a final product finally.
And how exciting to know that, this has been an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And, being able to see these brought to life, and we'll scroll down in just a moment and take a peek at those. But Perry as well, who, is an absolutely amazing 3D artist and, kind of did some digital advertising before.
Yes.
And, joined the metaverse, mid 2020. So you've been creating some pretty cool art too, and now you're here to help support Reed. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since we last chatted?
Since we last chatted, I've had a few other drops. I've had a couple on some rival platforms, but they've gone well, and kind of expanding upon what I've done before, which is kind of like trying to take less interesting, normal, everyday objects and like trying to put some sort of whimsical, fantastical spin on them. That's kind of the general gist that I kind of go for with the work that I do. I like taking, I think, especially during lockdown and and everything that we've been through over the last couple of years, I've kind of found it useful to like practice modeling skills and things on just things that are around me. So you end up just modeling objects that are in the house. and then I've just turned those into NFTs.
Nice. And that's, a very interesting thing, being able to take the mundane and the ordinary and then turn it into something a little bit more than its normal self. And that's, I think, a good segue into looking at these full spectrum bipeds, because, you think of bipeds and they're, upright creatures, but what Reed has created here is definitely a little bit more than just that. So
Yeah.
let's take a peek, and we'll scroll down to the first couple and see these robotic characters is how they're described. Robotic humanoids. Uh, so tell us about these, because, as the description says, most of these in movies and TV are kind of depressing, gloomy, maybe a little bit more metallic, and yours are most definitely not. They almost have an aquatic, like ethereal sort of color scheme to them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go into it like being like, I want to do something, different than everyone else. It just kind of ended up turning out like that. And, after I ended up finishing these products was actually when I did reflect on like, everything else that was depicted of like sci-fi and future. And I'm like, man, yeah, everything else was pretty gloomy. I'm glad I, was able to add a little bit of a spin to that with some color. And then even like, I was having a chat with like my friend the other day, and it was like, he doesn't understand NFTs. I was trying to explain, NFTs and stuff like that. And, it's just like digital clout and everything. And I'm like, think about even Wall-E or any other like, Pixar animated where they're trying to like step into the future. Everyone's wearing the same clothes. So it's like, it's kind of depressing when we do depict what the future is going to be like, because it's just like everyone's going to wear the same clothes. Everyone's going to be doing the exact same thing. So like maybe let's add some color to it and add some positivity to it.
Yes, and that, is a really fun reference, actually, thinking about Wall-E and how the future, not just is it a little bit, I would say, monochromatic, or, the design is very the same, but it's always a little bit darker and doom and gloom. Like, we don't tend to look into the future and project things that are as positive or hopeful.
Right.
Like, I mean, in the case of Wall-E, like he and Eva brought the hope, but that wasn't something that, we saw. So here you have, robots that are, in the human form, not generally the type of characters that would be bringing the hope to the future.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a very interesting thing to be looking at.
I think when Reed first started playing around with this, a while back, he shared something with me, and I was like, "Man, these are amazing. These look great." And he was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think I can do more." And he kind of went around the houses and ended up kind of almost back to where we were at the beginning, because the initial vision that he had of these like colorful see-through robots, where you kind of see all the high level of detail in it, just like I said, "Oh, I've not seen anything like that before," and they looked amazing. And you'll see it in some of the other pieces, and you'll see it when you have to kind of look at these on the screen yourself and see them big, and you can see such a high level of detail that he's got into all of these pieces.
So let's start with this one and kind of take a look at it a little bit bigger, so that way we can get a closer look. And it's interesting, right? Because when we're looking at these, they're, transparent robots. So, it's just like if you were to look inside of a person, you would see all of the different organs and the, vascular system. And now we're seeing that represented, but as machinery.
Yeah.
And it's...
Yeah, I mean, exactly like what Perry was saying. I mean, he's been along for the ride in terms of like me bouncing ideas off and everything. And yeah, I did start kind of where I ended up, which was good. But it was also like, man, I could have like really sped this process up if I just committed to my initial idea. I think that's the one thing I've learned with like, me and Perry's relationship just developing over time. I mean, me and Perry talk like at least once a week, just about everything, related to 3D. Sometimes you don't want to overdo something, or you don't want to like be like, oh, well, it's like this good and I want to make it that good. Cause maybe if you end up making it that good, you might be just getting diminishing returns. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good piece of advice, honestly, to focus on, not letting great get it, or perfection get in the way of good.
Yeah.
And that's something that we hear, kind of frequently as we're, kind of rolling out new projects, is like, don't let perfection stop you from delivering something. And in this case, like what you've delivered is absolutely amazing. And
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting looking at these because, yes, it's a robot in human form, and we can tell that it's definitely not human, but you have so many of those internal features that are reminiscent of human anatomy that it gives it more connection than I think, just like a standard, say Tin Man from Wizard of Oz feels,
Yeah.
It's really interesting. And so this one, it has a very unique head shape here. That's almost like it's like an old school camera, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I definitely went through, rounds of like trying to figure out what the best head shape was. But I honestly felt like the farther I went away from like an anatomically correct like head, the more cool it was because you can kind of create the story in your own head. And I think that's just with art too. If you can propel, the person looking at your art to create their own story in their head rather than forcing a story in their head, they're going to enjoy the piece that much more.
This is definitely like there's so much, I think, to be able to come up with, because how in my case, I'm looking at him like, how did it get a head like this? Like, what is the function of that head, and why would it need to be mobile? Like, that's very curious. But also this, like, it looks like there's almost some kind of like a liquid going through this tube that it's connected to. So then I'm like, what is it? Like, there's so much going on here that,
Yeah.
your story is definitely a very interesting one.
Yeah, I think it's also to kind of even go back because like I can't say that I do this, which is reading. Like that's why books were so amazing for such a long time, and that's why we're kind of getting to a point with like just movies in general, which like movies just like force an idea into your head, and they want you to just think that one way. Versus a book, everyone has a different idea of what that character looks like or what that environment looks like. So yeah, just trying to bridge that line of just being like a little bit like just vague about it, just helps like the viewer out a lot and makes them feel more empowered too.
Yes. And this is why with books, you have multiple people read the same book and then you turn it into a movie, and people get really upset about that sometimes because it has completely changed how they had envisioned it in their mind. So this is interesting, starting with the imagery first and letting people craft the story around it.
Yeah.
And let's take a peek at the second one. So they have these very digital sort of names, because you have the FS_2_byte and the FS_3 Zeta. And so this one is, it seems to be a more female version. And it has these like goggles with, this is, I think, what made me think more aquatic, right? These little, whatever is coming off the back of the head that almost looks like tentacles or hair.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of both, but it has that like jellyfish sort of feel, which is a fun thing to think about in terms of technology. You get like a robo jellyfish.
And the other thing that Reed's done, even though they're robots, they're also wearing like transparent clothes.
Yes, and you can see
I
that.
didn't even notice. We were talking about it earlier, and they've all got different types of shoes on.
Yeah.
I didn't say like one's got a pair of Crocs and one's got some Nikes.
Yes, she's got definitely some little footwear down there and around the ankles, but then you can see it just barely, like the shorts line, or I guess it'd be shorts because there's not connected in the middle, but they're slightly flowing, very transparent. So even the robots have an interesting sense of modesty or requirements. You can see the shirt, it's like a midriff top happening there too. So
she's not hiding anything.
No, but she's technically wearing the clothes so she can get into the shops that have the no shirt, no service, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people commented on this one saying it's got a big butt. So, but that's in right now, right? Just like Nikes are in and Crocs are in, so we got to stay relevant.
I guess
gotta make sure that all different bodies are here.
Hips don't lie.
Yes. Yes, and then we've got, let's see, this one. So this is the FS_4 sync. And
he's got the Crocs.
He's got the Crocs and he's got the shorts. These are the ones that I had first noticed when I was looking at them earlier, that they have these shorts that are, just kind of hanging out there. They're hanging. And then and there's a jacket too. It's a short sleeve one. And
Yeah.
it's got another, hair cord reminiscent, like it's a cable hair, I
Right.
guess. If you're a robot, that's what you'd have as hair.
Yeah.
But the face is really interesting, and I like really have this strong urge to want to be able to turn it around to see what the front looks like.
Yeah.
You've created some mystery here, Reed, that
Here
I'm
we go.
gonna have to think about for a while now.
I did my job.
Yes, yes, and he's got these like whatever this is happening here almost reminds me of like those big like dragon or like lionfish ear fins.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Like there's a lot of really cool details in here that would be great for storytelling. So you've definitely done it, because here I am like, what else can I find in this?
Yeah, and then also the fact he created these, even though they're all on these kind of treadmills, they've all got different backgrounds, so they're all in some sort of facility,
A
some sort
facility
of
that's
futuristic dark facility that they're in generating this power.
and it's a much darker facility than they are.
Yeah. And something that's interesting in terms of like the creative process of even like that, I started them all out to be on a black background with like a glossy ground. And then I think I shared it to someone else besides Perry, and they said, I feel like it needs a background. And like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, so I just go down the rabbit hole of trying to make some sort of background. And I think I've shared with Perry all the different backgrounds that I came up with. And then he kept on saying, like, try to knock it back, because like it was like the robots were starting to get lost in the composition. And, as an artist who actually creates the stuff, they want to showcase everything they put into it, not realizing that a lot of that stuff doesn't matter at all. So like having that extra detail for, the viewer to find is actually making it more special than like trying to just blast it all and just be like, look at all the cool stuff I made. It's like, find the cool stuff that I made, which is kind of fun to do too.
Yes, and I definitely respect that, because for those who maybe don't have as much experience creating these things, like the backgrounds don't just come preset. Like this is something you had to build.
Yeah.
And you can see if you're looking at the backgrounds, that each of these gears are turning, and so there's a lot of the small details that are happening. You've got the lighting that's on the treadmill, which is the only other bit of color aside from the character here. And then all of these scans that are happening, like there's so much that you've rendered and animated, and on its own, I think each of those could also be an interesting piece of art. So then having them, make space for the main subject is really interesting, and that juxtaposition there.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love those. Those are good. And we've got this little motor too.
Yeah.
Which,
I hadn't noticed that. It looks like a little generator.
Yeah.
But is the generator powering the treadmill, or is the person powering the generator?
Oh, it's up to the viewer to decide.
This is a very good question. That's so good. Let's see. Oh, I had it muted up. We've got music too.
Oh yeah.
I forgot I made them quieter because I didn't want it to overwhelm the conversation, but you can hear how each of these also has extra audio that accompanies the art. So we'll make it a little bit quieter so we can talk about it now. But like having that, that takes it to a whole nother level, having that audio as well. So tell us a little bit about the audio creation as you were thinking about these scenes.
Yeah, the audio. So I actually had a friend. I've been working with him forever. He does a lot of DJing, performs and everything. And I've been trying to push him to like go outside of just trying to like make music, because I'm like, there's so much more to audio than just like trying to make, electronic music. So I've been kind of just like pushing these projects on him, being like, hey, you should try this. You should try this. And so he ended up, spending some hours and putting this together. And then I also kind of sent him towards Perry's way, and he worked on some of Perry's drops too. So I'm just trying to, get the friends involved too. It's better to get the people that are close involved rather than the people you don't know.
Yes. And I think that's a really important takeaway too for the community, is like understanding the power of your network and your friends, and having, the people who are around you be able to help support and drive that creativity, and, all kind of, benefit in this space, which is really
Me
exciting.
and Reed have actually never been in the same room together.
We never have. Yeah.
So this is definitely a digital friendship, but hopefully we'll change that this year.
Oh, that's super exciting. And I think that's true for so many people in this space. I would say of the 4 years that I've been in this space, I've not met a single other person, real world.
Oh, really?
Yes. And you know, that'll be changing actually, you know, later this month. But that's a really interesting thing, like how close the bonds you can make here in the metaverse and through these projects without having to be in the same physical location. Like that is huge. And it's creating this whole new type of reality.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually planning. I haven't spoken to. I was going to ask Reed about it, but I'm planning to go to the NYT. Well, NYC and NFT.
Oh yeah, I'm down.
It's at the end of June. So
okay.
I'm thinking I might go to that. I think that might be a good kind of event to go to. Actually, see some people in real life.
Yeah, I know. I would love to meet Perry. I feel like me and Perry in real life would also not have anything. We wouldn't have a silence in the room at all, for sure. I think we'd have plenty to talk to because, like I said, we do talk all the time, and I feel like I know Perry very well. And you know, I even talked with him before he had his first baby too.
Oh yeah.
So you've been there through some major life milestones.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we started chatting on Instagram, and this is turning into sort of a bromance story.
Oh, those are perfect. We love this.
We started chatting on Instagram, and that's when Reed got in touch with me and said, you know, we should do some work together. And that's when I said I'd gotten into NFTs, and I said to him, oh, we should, rather than just doing some work, we should try and do a collection and put it out as an NFT collection. Because I think at the time I'd just recently done something on MakersPlace. I said we should try and do something with MakersPlace, and went from there. And it took us, because obviously we both got other jobs and other lives, so it took us about 6 months, but we
got it together.
We got it together. Yeah. I think once we kind of had proof of concept, and then we probably spent a few weeks on like just concentrating on doing that and nothing else, and just, you know, get it done. But like Reece said, with these pieces, I think having a deadline is good, because you think, okay, what is practical? What can I do? Mm-hmm. I have to call it at some point.
Yes, and that.
Yeah, definitely. And then also another thing, like we had an Instagram live a little bit earlier, and oh man, this probably would have had like so much more detail if I could have got my computer to cooperate with this. So I was constantly texting like Perry. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the deadline. Like my computer keeps on crashing. I got to take out so much detail, but I don't want to because I'm so in love with it. Like, what do I do? So it's just, sometimes you got to spend those long nights and just start cutting off your favorite parts, which.
Yeah, but I think like Reed's saying is that the things he was adding to it were probably adding that 101, 102%, you know? Yeah. And it's like, don't sweat it. You got to cut. You got to be like, it looks really good.
Yeah.
Go with it. Be happy. That's the problem. Everything, we're all artists are probably feel the same way, is that you think you do something, you think, well, could I have made it better? What could I have done? But then that's what drives you forward, because then for the next piece that you do, whether it's just a piece of art on Instagram or whether you're going to create an NFT collection, you think, what can I do that's different? What can I do to kind of push myself on? You know, what new tools have I learned? And I know Reed was working on this, then he come to me and said, actually, I've got this whole new idea. It's I won't say what it is because he might want to do it at some other point, but I've got this whole new idea. And I said, yeah, it looks amazing, but the other one looked amazing.
Yeah. I know, that's the death of me.
It's funny, we have this in the chat. They were saying that's the battle cry of the two artists, you know, not knowing that line of like, when is it enough? And, you know,
exactly.
When do you call it done? And it's, you know, and maybe that's art, is that it's never truly done, but you have to like, you know, find something else.
Yeah. I've had a few times when I've, submitted pieces for a drop, And for some reason, you know, I've watched them like 1,000 times and everything seems fine. And then when it's actually on the page, I've looked at it and thought, oh my God, there's a mistake.
Yeah.
And then I'm on the phone, like, it needs to be changed.
Yeah.
We need to
Oh my
swap it
goodness.
out. But, you know, but other people probably wouldn't even notice it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you've spent so much time with it that you know what was, you know, maybe intended, and if it's not the same, but
Yeah.
nobody else would ever even know because they can't see inside your brain.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And then we've got this one too, which let's take a peek at this because this is different than the others. And we'll take a peek at this, which is $1 raffle. And so this is to anybody who has already purchased on MakersPlace can enter the raffle. And we have headshots of all of the characters. Is that true?
Yes, and I'm not sure, just based on like the viewing of right now, it is very high resolution, but with the MakersPlace and their website and everything, they can't like show off too high a resolution. So just know if you were to get this piece, it can be very big. You can blow it up, put it wherever. It's going to be good quality for sure.
Could fill your entire wall with it.
It'll fill my entire wall behind me here soon.
Yeah, the big vinyl.
Yeah.
Which would
But
be
these
fun.
were what, like I was saying, you can see all the like crazy amount of detail that Reed's brought out in these pieces, and they're so vibrant and colorful. And this was almost kind of similar to what he originally showed me, just like one of these. It wasn't the same 4 characters as it is now. It was a earlier piece, but I was like, wow, that looks amazing.
Yeah, I really felt like this kind of style was extremely strong with stills because it allows you to actually like keep your gaze like moving rather than like almost feeling sick trying to look at the detail. So that's why I kind of wanted that balance of like having cool movements, but then also having like a breath of fresh air where you could like have a still that you can just like really reflect on the piece and, you know, see the detail in there.
You know, that's a really good point because with the stills, you can control the movement and the points of focus. And when it's moving, you're always trying to almost catch up. So there's a lot of things that you're like, you might catch a glimpse of it, but then not be able to pinpoint where exactly the detail was. And, you know, this is, you know, so amazing. And we get a different, by the way, these are a different view of those characters because now they're pointing to the right as opposed to facing left when they're walking. So I can almost see the front of him now. Still some mystery, but I get the other side at least, which is super fun looking at them. And so, and these are, let's see, let's go back. And then so the first ones were all additional. I guess that's important to note that there's editions of 5 for the first 3 that people would be able to purchase starting in less than an hour. So like, we're getting really, really close to drop time.
I was saying to Reed, and I was saying to you as well earlier, that I've had to plug in my ledger, my hardware wallet. I'm ready to go.
So I'm going to share this from the chat because our one of our community team members, Noisy, has noted that you should just tell people for the moving ones that the unlockable is nausea, so they could say like, these are so sick, and contribution to the community. There's a way to spin anything. Don't worry. So you can have those, but in going back to some of the movement, so we have the open editions, which is interesting because instead of the editions of 5, these are ones that people could mint theoretically, you know, as many as they're interested in. Starting with, let's go with this one, which has, I think, the best hair of all of them, in my personal opinion. All of these, it reminds me of just such a cool character, like this hair that is flopping around behind, and it's got the motion. Like that's a big thing is when you're animating. I've seen this in a lot of video games, right? They'll animate the body and the movement, but then not the hair. And I'm like, why is it solid? Yours is moving. So I'm so happy about that.
That's kind of like the icing on the cake when you get that secondary motion, you know, on top of the, you know, the actual walk cycle itself, but having that additional motion. Sorry, I'm talking.
Even to follow up on that, I think, you know, the clothing was causing me like issues, just like trying to even get it rendered out. And then I'm like, Perry, the clothing. And he's just like, don't have the clothing. Like, you don't need the clothing. And I'm like, I need the clothing.
Which is this, you can see the line, like the little skirt line there.
Yeah, it is better having the clothing, and like you say, they're hiding their modesty in a certain way.
Yes. Yeah, so she's got the skirt, she's got a little like jacket here and these high tops. Like, this is a pretty badass character. Like, definitely I think my favorite of all of them, which is oh my goodness. And
yeah, which I'm happy that it's really open edition. Get as many of them out there as possible.
Yes. Community says she has a sassy hair bounce. So.
I was thinking it reminds me of, I don't know if you had them in the US, in the UK. We used to go to like a newsagents and get like an icicle, like a long icicle in a plastic.
Oh, like an otter pop.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what you would call them here, but yeah, but they'd be bright colors like that. It looks like she's got 5 of them. When they melt, they're all kind of.
They are too. Yeah, you can buy those actually here, like boxes of them in the summertime. Generally, just put the whole box in the freezer and then pull them apart individually.
Yeah.
Or just drink them while they're liquid because it's just a bunch of sugar water.
I know.
It's fun too.
Right.
Kids crack.
Yes. That's, and that's a fun thing to be able to look at art like this and have those like nostalgic kind of ties. Like, that's not maybe what it was inspired by, but that's something that, pulls you in as a viewer and as a collector. And like, now you have that connection in a way that maybe wasn't intended, but definitely is really beneficial to your experience, of looking at the art and having that. So
yeah, it's a fun aspect of it.
So fun. Well, and I think one of the other interesting things that we haven't talked about as we're looking at them, but what I've noticed is that when she's taking the steps, the colors of the body, like this iridescence, is actually changing. You get the lighter on the shin bone here, and then it gets darker in the background. And that's something that is, I would imagine, a lot of work that she put into just getting those color transformations.
Yeah, it was an interesting process with this for sure. Like, it wasn't like very like, I want this to be this color, I want this to be this color. It was kind of like, kind of randomizing until you felt like you were happy with it, which that's why I love digital art, because like, when you have like a pen and paper, you have a blue color, you have a black color, and that's kind of what you're stuck with, unless you go to Hobby Lobby and buy more colors. And then those are the colors that you're with. But digital, you could just like iterate and iterate and iterate. And honestly, it did a demise for me, because like, that's why this project like took me forever, because I was just iterating forever, just seeing how far I could push it. But again, it goes back to what Perry was saying earlier. It's like, you got to find a point to like, be like, this is where I got to finish it. I got to stop here. But it's so cool that you could literally make an infinite amount of ideas for it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That is amazing. So we have this one. And then the last of all of the items in your drop today, the full spectrum Abbey Road. So we talked about this a little bit before we went live, but having this reference, this pop culture, musical type reference with the Abbey Road and all of your characters walking. Yeah. Taking that still approach, but across. And this was, as you mentioned, kind of that MakersPlace, like lower res version, but there was a full res preview, so you could see. There we go. We'll get the fancy one.
Yeah.
To look at.
That one will really look good framed. I'm excited for that one.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But this was the original style, which was like kind of a glossy ground, and then you have like this black background that really makes all the colors pop. But then I am happy that like with the animations that I did, kind of, go with some sort of background, but then Perry helped me along to be like, push it farther in the background. It's more about the robots, not about everything else. So I'm glad I could still, throw these pieces out there too, to show you kind of like what the original concept was in the very beginning.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm really pushy.
No, it's the best. I mean, honestly, in every art space, you need to find someone that literally just says, stop, you're there, just submit it.
I know. Well, I've got that with my wife tells me that. I'll say I'm going to do this drop, and it's going to have 2 pieces. Actually, maybe 3. No,
Yeah.
actually, if there's 3, there probably should be 4. And she says, just do the 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm going to do 2.
Yeah.
That's fun. Well, and I will say the community, the responses here, as we're looking at this piece, seem to be focused on the reflections. Like people are in love with these reflections because they said it's almost as if either the characters are melting or they're sprouting. Like you've got these like dialogues that are happening visually. And where are they coming from? You can see, I guess, as the joints during the steps, where their feet are connecting with the surface. Like, are they?
I think the color, that kind of blurred, kind of almost like color wave he's got in there, kind of almost looks like a Northern Lights kind of scenario.
It's very ethereal.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back to like my mindset before I even knew 3D, because I know Perry probably has this too. Like whenever we look at anyone else's 3D work, we're like depicting like, oh, they added a cube, they added a sweep, they added this, they added that. Like you're literally reconstructing like how they made it in your head. But then you don't have that like blank slate, where these other people are thinking, it's melting, it's doing this, it's doing that. And I'm like, all I'm thinking about is just the technical stuff. But someone has to worry about the technical stuff, I guess.
I was going to say, speaking of the technical stuff, we had a question from the chat wondering if the reflections were post-processed or were they inline render?
Yeah, they were in the render.
Okay.
So with this one, I really, really, really wanted to put all of the pieces together, like all the characters in the same scene. But every time I did that, my computer exploded. So, so it was just like trial and error. And then I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to get them in the same scene, but not have my computer explode. And then, so I finally was able to figure out a workaround. And I mean, they look awesome when they're all together for sure.
They do. And one of the interesting things that we can see in the previews is actually each character on their own. But it's very important to note that, if this is the NFT edition that you are getting, that you won't get them individually. You'll get them all together in that scene because they look amazing together. But this is just an even closer preview of each individual one. So kind of a workaround in the preview side of making sure that we can see all the details of that one big piece.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to ask on behalf of the I haven't seen the comments, but that reflective floor, because it almost looks like it's kind of going straight down. Have you just got a roughness channel on that, or?
Here we go, Perry. Let's not
I'm just asking out of interest.
No, that's exactly what it is. Just metallic gator, bring the roughness.
It looks like it's kind of almost stretching, or the way it's kind of bleeding off. It's kind of a cool effect. I don't know.
This out.
Might be. There must be. Maybe it's the camera, because of the camera straight on. It's kind of. It's just. Maybe it's a camera effect.
I think it was probably because I did it with such a long lens. I probably did it with a 50 millimeter lens that you're seeing the ground just getting stretched.
Yes.
In a certain way. So yeah, it's probably
well, it's a cool effect.
Yeah.
I'll steal it and put it somewhere else.
And that is.
I can't say I know where you live, Perry. That's
I'm moving soon.
How funny. And so you can actually see in these ones too a little bit more the framing of the clothing. So when they were animated, they were very transparent, but now you can see the frames of the outlines where they were at, which is an interesting view.
Yeah.
So they're covering a little bit more.
There's this clothing software called Marvelous Designer, which is really, really fun because before I even did 3D, I was very into sewing. So I would wear a lot of the clothing that I would make. I live in Colorado, so I made a bunch of sweatshirts and jackets and all that stuff. And so being able to iterate and do that stuff on the computer without wasting a bunch of fabric was so nice. but then it also gave me an endless amount of possibilities. And I'm just like, all right, where do I draw the line again? Where do I stop?
Yes. Yeah, so that's so fun, like seeing that experience and being able to tie that in to this art, like having, I guess, as you mentioned, maybe that's almost a little bit detrimental because it gives you so many possibilities that you have a hard time drawing that line, and like the possibilities are endless, and that isn't always the best thing if you're trying to maintain it to a small collection.
Yeah.
But
Well,
also we'd love to see more magic, so I'm not going to complain about that either.
yeah, I guess one last note on that too. I mean, we all love Beeple. He's the biggest NFT guy, praise the Lord. His biggest thing is he always says, like, just put as many things as you can in there to convey the story. And that's like, as minimal items as you need. You just need to like create that silhouette of the story you're trying to portray or the message you're trying to portray. And then if you have extra time, then you can worry about the details. But in the end, those details aren't going to be telling the story. It's that main shape that you're conveying and everything too. So I need to just like implement that a lot more into my workflow too.
Well, I'm sure that we'll be able to see those future implementations as you continue to roll things out.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know that we're getting close to the top of the hour, and before I let you guys go, there was also another project that we wanted to touch on a little bit, Perry, that you had mentioned, and we'll pull that up too, so that way I can share the link with the chat.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So this is a drop that's happening on April 22nd. It's on Nifty Gateway. But it's for charity. It's for charity. So we've got over 30 artists. They're all doing their own. I did a drop on there a couple of years ago, or a year or two ago, with a baby bottle when my baby was born. I did this series. I did a couple of series with these baby bottles, and what I've done is I've just taken the super basic model of the baby bottle, and I've given it to these about 35 artists, and they're all doing their own interpretations. So there's a mixture of MakersPlace artists, Nifty artists, people on Super Rare, all sorts of people. We've got like Alan Bolton, who's obviously been on MakersPlace a lot, Zygor, Shaka Blood, Miguel Garist, LT, Hashmuk, Lightnitrenders, No Problem. Pardon?
Nick Vegas.
Oh, yeah, Grayscale Gorilla himself. If anyone knows 3D, you know Grayscale Gorilla. Nick Vegas, Nick Campbell. He's done one. Jonathan Wimbush. We've got Stuza, EJ Hassanfratz, who anyone who does any like tutorial stuff will know him. Double A, Kinetic Graphics, Josh Pierce, Roger Kilimanjaro,
Zigor.
Jesse Mead, me. Yeah, there's a lot of art. They're all they're on the list. Goldwood, they're all on the list. So they're all giving up. There are going to be 30-something auctions, and all the money is going to UNICEF, basically.
Perfect. So that's, a really cool thing to be able to see art making a difference in the world, like not just the metaverse, which obviously is something that, we can see and kind of understand on a basic level, but being able to take that and actually impact people's physical experience in the world, like that is, really the magic of what it is we're doing here. So seeing all of these artists come together, to help support that cause is really awesome.
And, this is something that wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago, there's no way, all these people from all over the world. I've never met any of these people, but they've all signed on to do it. And it would have, I just, after having a baby, kind of, you see these things on the news and you feel like, I don't know what I can do, but I can't. Now I've got a baby, I think I'm a bit more emotional about these things. And I thought, this is something that I can do. I've kind of made connections with people in the NFT space. So, you know, why not do something? We'll get some really cool art out of it and make some money for charity.
Yeah.
Perfect. What an awesome thing to see. You know, not only are you guys, you know, doing really amazing things in the NFT space, but you're doing amazing things that are impacting the world. So
yeah, well, and Reed has submitted his piece probably 3 times. He's done 3 different pieces because he does one and he's like, actually, I've got a better idea. I'm going to do this. So he's got a few of them lined up, but there's only going to be one in the auction. But maybe, I don't know, he might want to auction the others off again later. But we'll see. But yeah, it's cool because we've got a bunch of artists of all different styles. Yeah, all dropping in one place. So it's going to be cool, I think.
awesome. And that's something that I've shared the link in the community, so we can
Thank you.
definitely keep an eye on that as well. And that looks like that's April 22nd. So
Yes.
that'll be next week.
Yes.
But things that are happening today in 35 minutes.
Yeah. No.
Yes, this is going to be super exciting.
Oh, I don't know if the one thing we didn't mention about Reed's drop was that you get the still if you get 2 pieces, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's the Abbey Road.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the sale price is 0 because you have to get 2 other pieces in order to qualify.
Yeah,
Right.
any 2 others.
Okay.
So you could get one of the open editions and then one of the raffles if you're lucky. So
Nice.
Yeah. Or you could just to absolutely make sure you could buy all of them.
Yes.
I can say that because it's not my drop, so I don't feel bad about.
Well, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about the robots being separated from their friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You've got the
Yes.
full set, and I'm acting as Reed's hype man here as well. And I think probably should share it on his Instagram. He did a piece where he kind of did this style a little was it a year ago when he did a spider?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm
Sure
you probably gotta
scroll down.
Just a sec.
Reed is like prolific.
Oh, maybe above the height key. Yeah, I wasn't.
Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
Maybe down a little bit more. See, all my stuff is random.
Let's see. There's high
maybe it's not on here. I thought I had it on here.
Oh, it's.
Anyways, like that'll
there's
probably
a spider somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at, or it might actually be in my experiments. If you go up to the stories at the top.
Okay.
The posted reels.
Scroll faster.
Yeah, right there. Here's a lot of like old stuff. If you like kind of go fast through these, you'll find this is just where I kind of throw all my experiments and stuff out there.
It's fun that there are aliens since they're experiments.
Yeah.
How thematic.
Yeah, it might be a little bit. There's a lot here.
There's so many, but they're so good. Oh wait, a spider.
Yeah, it was one of the spiders.
So there's a spider. It's a robotic spider that's also translucent.
Yeah.
Oh, how fun.
A little creepy, but a little fun.
So I think Reed was saying that then that's why I had this kind of this collection was like the bipeds because he can expand it out down the line and do like a series of insects or a series of animals or fish or
this modeling robot. Like these poses. Wow.
Like, let's just say Instagram didn't die when we died.
So good. So good. And now we could maybe see the bipeds. There we go. Here's another has a similar vibe, but also doing the action poses here.
Yeah.
So we saw them on the treadmills, but they could have a future in modeling.
Yeah.
Their predecessors.
Robot Tinder profile pictures.
Yes. I bet there's a market for that. You could roll out a whole PFP project of exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That would be good, and I'm pretty sure that you'd find success with something like that. It seems like it's fitting for this space.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for shouting that out, Perry.
Those are so good. So good. So just a reminder to the community, 31 minutes until your drop goes live. And, that's the cool thing that we were chatting about today, but also April 22nd on, the Nifty Gateway platform. That's where we are doing the art to support Ukraine and UNICEF. So that's also important. You have things this week and next week, and I'm sure that both Reed and Perry will be giving us amazing things to come in the future too. So
yeah, we've got things in the on the back burner. We've got things that we're thinking about that we want to work on together. So we'd like to do at some point a follow up to the high tea drop that we did.
Woohoo.
And we've got,
Such
I think
a
we've
fun
got
one.
a solid idea for it. It's just having the time to do it.
I think our idea is this big, so let's keep it this big. Maybe if it's Perry, we'll bring it down to a little bit more.
So good. Awesome. Perfect. Well, I will let you guys go. I know that it's 6 o'clock now, so you've got 30 minutes till your drop goes live, and we will be watching closely for sure. I always love to support you guys and all the things that you're doing. So thank you so much for joining today and chatting with the whale community again.
It was an honor and privilege. I really appreciate you guys shouting us out and everything, and it's always fun to talk to more people in the community.
Yeah.
Always good to have you here. We will keep an eye on what you got going on, and definitely be in touch soon. Have a great day, guys.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, whale community, for stopping by. We'll see you again later.
Bye.